Hey everybody, it's Jon Ray with Jade Protocol, Smarter Coin, and NFTreasure. And today I'm going to be going through a process that I use to deal with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. As we've seen in the crypto markets, anytime there's a chart that is creeping downwards quickly like this, it obviously creates a lot of big feelings in us. And there's a tendency for us to want to immediately jump into action and do something to fix the pain that we're feeling in our body. But I wanted to cover kind of how I handle things before I get into action, because really there's only one thing that any of us needs to know to be successful, or to be successful in crypto or in life. And so I'm going to cover what that one thing is, how I land on that one thing, and how we can use, maybe for some people, a somewhat woo-woo process. But in my history as a mindfulness coach and an emotional processing coach, this is the type of thing that allows me to be a very good consultant, a very good advisor, and really, I think a better boyfriend, a better friend, a better brother, son, like a better human being, because I have an understanding and a toolkit on how to deal with big feelings so that I'm not constantly shooting myself in the foot. So, the purpose of this video is to kind of talk about what we can do when markets tank. Obviously, that's uncomfortable. Obviously, there's a lot at play, and we don't ever know all of the information, no matter how seasoned a trader we are. And so when the markets tank, crypto Twitter will tell us that there's a lot of big feelings. A lot of people are acting emotionally. We get to a place where we're so emotional that we're not really thinking clearly, because there's this sense of loss. Oh, maybe even like shame, because we lost, maybe money that we were investing not only for ourselves but for our family. And then we immediately want to, if we're not good at processing or feeling those feelings and allowing that to move through us, a lot of times we will project that forward. And so we want to blame somebody else for our pain. And that's really just us not wanting to feel that, or not knowing how to properly process those big feelings. And then if we have a process for addressing our emotions, then we get to this place where we can actually see big red candle days as an opportunity, and we can start to look for what those opportunities are and properly assess the probabilities that are available to us, because success or failure is just a handful of decisions away. And so when we're making decisions from a hyper emotional space, anybody who, has suffered from gambling addiction, or who, has followed one bad trade by a string of other bad trades, knows that making decisions from a hyper emotional place is rarely the way to land on a strategy that is going to pull you out of your tailspin. And when the crypto markets are in a tailspin, we need to first have what I think is the only thing we need to be successful in crypto or life, and that's discernment. And the way that I'm defining discernment is knowing what to do and knowing when to do it. So, would you agree that if you know what to do and you know when to do it, that's the formula for success? Now, of course, that's massively simplified and generic, because it can be hard to know what to do, and it can be hard to know when to do it. However, one thing that can set us up for better success in knowing what to do and when to do it is by properly working through big feelings, getting to a place of rational thinking, and really unlocking a kind of intuition that opens us up to be able to see all of the possible probabilities, all the possibilities, and then discern which of those has the opportunity that is right for us. Because the opportunity that's right for me isn't necessarily going to be the opportunity that is right for anybody else, because we all have different talent stacks, we all have different skill sets, we all have different levels of education. And so for each of us, the opportunity that is available to us right now in this present moment is going to be different based on our life history and experience. And so that's why we have to develop personal discernment, because we might take the exact same steps that somebody else takes to have success, but for us, those steps don't work because we haven't developed the discernment to understand the nuance of how to navigate those things. So when there's big red candles, obviously the big question that everybody asks is, what do I do with my portfolio now? If you're down 60% or 80%, if you had a major loss in Luna or UST or any of the markets that dumped pretty heavily, over the last 24, 48 hours. And if you're watching this video in the future, this is on May 11th, which, as we can see, not a good day for crypto. But what do we do? How can we take advantage of this situation in a way that is useful to us, and allows us to chart the best path forward? And so what most people do is they will immediately try to spring into action to make up for losses. I used to do a lot of futures trading on leverage, and I have an addictive personality and a tendency to want to push the gambler's risk tolerance curve. And because of that, I had to really practice discernment and discipline so that I would stop chasing bad losses with more losses. Because what I see a lot of people in the space doing is they will make $30,000-$40,000 on a leverage trade. It is an insane feeling to make $50,000 in 1 hour on a leverage futures trade. The problem is that most people get lucky when that happens. Like, very few people are actually seasoned traders. They're just kind of dabbling. Maybe they took a course and they're dabbling in the markets, and instead of learning with small amounts, they find something that works a few times, and then they just keep upping the leverage or keep upping the amount of money that they're betting on that strategy. And of course, when markets move, that strategy isn't going to work anymore. And so then all of your trades can turn against you. And if you're not a seasoned enough trader and don't know how to handle a market turning against you, it can be bad news. So you might be up 50,000 on one trade one day, but then you have a string of 10 or 15 trades where you're losing $5,000, $10,000 a trade. So your net profit is negative. And I know a lot of traders who aren't properly tracking their profit ratios, and they think that they're doing better than they are because they're trading emotionally. And so if you're a seasoned trader and you're thinking rationally, then springing directly into action when there are red candles might be the right move, because you might be able to already see all of the data points and all the probabilities and play the market in the right way. But that requires somebody who is thinking rationally and has a deep education and knowledge of all possibilities that could happen based on the data that's available in the charts and beyond, the news, etc. And so if you find yourself looking to get into a trade and you're almost manic or hyper emotional, and the sole purpose for you getting into a trade or seeking out a trade, if you're quickly manically seeking out a trade, that's usually a cue for me to just stop, take a step back, go for a bike ride, go for a walk. Trying to make up losses too quickly is what gamblers do when they lose a big bet. And so they end up doubling down on a bunch of stupid bets without fully thinking them through. And really what they're trying to do is avoid having to experience that big loss. Because if they could just get back in profit, they wouldn't have to feel those uncomfortable feelings. Well, if we can just learn how to sit temporarily in those uncomfortable feelings and let them pass, we can get back to that rational thinking that's required to actually see where the real opportunity is. But when we're living in fear, anger, uncertainty, doubt, resentment. Have you ever experienced any of those feelings in the crypto market? Any big feeling, when we're living from those big feelings and looking through those big feelings, we have to ask ourselves a question. When I have these kind of emotional blinders on, am I really going to be able to rationally assess the probabilities in my life, and make good decisions? And the answer is usually probably not. Most people don't make good decisions from a hyper emotional space. And you can see on crypto Twitter that a lot of people live constantly from that emotional space, and they're constantly wanting to project blame on other people. And yet, the 90% of the things in their life are going in a similar direction. And so if all of these things are going in a downward spiral and they're seemingly unconnected, well, the only connecting part is me. And so usually, if I ever see multiple things moving in a downward trajectory in my life, in different subjects or different domains of life, that means that I'm not properly discerning something in my life and I'm not making the right decision. And so my job then, really the only thing that I need to do at that point, is properly process out any big feelings that are there so that I can actually see the decision space that is available to me. And then we always need to ask, can I trust my discernment if I'm being blinded by big feelings? Probably not. So anytime I have a big feeling, I go, oh, I'm not seeing everything right now, because this big feeling is saying I want attention first before you're going to be able to see the whole picture. So the way that this looks in crypto and really in any area of life, if you're racing into the market to try to make up losses without a plan, that's not a good idea. That's emotional trading, and long term, short term, it's probably going to bite you, but long term, it definitely is not a good strategy. Anybody that's rage trading, like if you're angry and you're just like, I'm going to throw all my money into the market and I'll prove this market wrong, I'll prove this protocol wrong. Rage trading, not a good idea. There's also kind of revenge trading. So deciding that, well, if I can't win, then nobody else should be able to win either. And so then lashing out in this kind of vengeful way in Discord channels, Twitter, trying to use your funds in a way to send a message. Like anytime you're like, I'll send a message, that's you're probably not. There may be an opportunity from a vengeful space, for sure. Like a lot of people can make money from a vengeful space. Like sometimes that focuses you in an interesting way. But is it the highest opportunity available? Is it going to be the win-win-win? Probably not. And then, anybody that's fueled by resentment, I'll just highlight where I'm at in this document. If you're being fueled by resentment, you've got to ask yourself, are you in a mindset that is going to be conducive to seeing win-win opportunities? Probably not, because resentment is usually a pretty selfish kind of hurt space. There's a lot of emotions that are clouding the connection between your body and brain, and really shutting down some of the intuitive engines. Outside of the crypto world, maybe in real life, maybe you lost a job, or you've got more bills than income, and so you're falling deeper and deeper into debt. And so there's kind of this sense of helplessness or shame or guilt or not knowing, that's that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? And so what a lot of people will do is they'll just try to avoid all of that fear and push it down, or project it out onto others. And you can identify these people because these people usually show up as being angry, resentful, and then that creates a scenario where they're not seeing all of the decisions available to them, or they're not discerning properly which decision to make. So then they end up showing up as unlucky, and what is luck? Like, luck is just a series of accurate decisions in a row. And so when we can't see the right decision to make, if we're not hyper aware of what's happening, we might just, proclaim that I'm an unlucky person. But really, that anger and resentfulness is preventing us from seeing opportunities that would make us appear lucky. And then, of course, the more unlucky we are, the more depressed that we get. Nothing's working for me. And so a lot of times it happens in that order, right? Like people are angry, then they're resentful, then they feel unlucky, and then now they're living in this kind of depressed, shut down space. But if we're able to work through some of those big feelings before we try and take action, we end up seeing things that we wouldn't otherwise see, like data points. Our brain really, I forget what the number is, but our brain sees a very small bandwidth of all of the information that is actually available to us. And because like a computer, it has to efficiently choose what information it's going to process, it leaves a lot of stuff out. And so when we're living in a big feeling, our brain is processing information relational to that big feeling, which means that it's not processing or showing us data points that might otherwise be available and useful in our decision making. So if we can sit with those feelings, and I'm going to walk us through a process that I feel is maybe one of the most profitable processes that somebody can have in their toolkit, you'll be able to better see and discern the data points and understand how to utilize those. And so you'll develop better discernment. And of course, better discernment means that you're more capable of knowing what to do and when to do it. And of course, we started this video by saying the only thing you need to know to be successful in crypto in life is knowing what to do and when to do it. And so the more that we can develop the awareness or the discernment to be able to know what to do and when to do it, the more profitable we can become in all domains of life. And it allows us to get to this place where we recognize that when there's pain in the marketplace or really anywhere in life, that means that there's also lots of opportunity. Think about it. If there's pain in the marketplace, whatever that is, that means that potentially there's the opportunity to deploy capital into things that are on sale. It also means that protocol owners are hurting and they're looking for solutions. And so if you're somebody who has a good solution or a good idea, you can step in and provide value there, kind of in a consulting role. In your personal life, if somebody has lost a loved one or lost a job or is going through a hard time, that pain gives you the opportunity to show up and be a good friend, to provide a listening ear, to provide value to that relationship and deepen that connection. So when there's pain anywhere, that means that there's an opportunity that you can step in and fill. Pain usually means that something went wrong or wasn't tended to properly. And of course, people pay money to get out of pain. Like, unfortunately, nobody wants to process their own pain, which would actually give them a better lens into seeing how to consistently stay out of pain. But instead, a lot of people will pay money either for distraction, by going to a casino or binging Netflix, or many times, like, people don't want to deal with the problems in their own company. And so many times in the past, I've been hired to kind of just come and clean something up so that somebody else didn't have to tend to it in that way. But the moral of all of that is that people will definitely pay to get out of pain. And so when there's pain in the marketplace, you have to look at your talent stack, the things that you're good at, and say, okay, what problem does my talent stack solve in this current pain? And then you can utilize that to assess opportunity. Good consultants get paid for their discernment, right? Like, what is a consultant? A consultant is somebody who can properly assess a situation and then know what to do and when to do it. That's one of the most marketable skills that you can have, is proper discernment and assessment of a situation, and then the ability to give good advice on what to do and when to do it. And so that means that learning discernment is one of the most profitable skills that you can learn. And the exercise that I'm going to walk us through in a second will show you how you can start to practice and develop better discernment, which ultimately will make you a better trader, a better husband, a better wife, a better friend, a better consultant. It will make you better at seeing all of the data points. Which, if the thing that comes to mind is that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper, where he takes that pill and all of a sudden he's just able to see everything, and he's making these $1 million trades and doing these corporate mergers because he can see all the data points that other people can't see and process them. And that's what discernment is. It's an ability to open up your decision space in an interesting way that can then be used to identify opportunities. So how do we learn and practice discernment? Well, for those of you who know or have watched some of my older videos, you know that I'm into some rather unorthodox or woo-woo practices. So this isn't going to resonate with everybody, but I do think that it's a pretty practical way of processing emotions. So I'm not going to get too down the woo-woo rabbit hole. But in the book Psycho-Cybernetics, and maybe we should have a whole book club on this book, because it really is one of the best books on developing discernment and reaching your goal. Another book that speaks a lot to this is The Secrets of Increasing Power, Wealth, and Happiness by Alan C. Walter. So I'll put the links to these books in the description, and you can let me know if you want to dive into more processes from those books or have some kind of a book club. But in chapter 2 of this book, of Psycho-Cybernetics, it talks about finding your success mechanism. And so the premise in the book is that your brain and nervous system together form what they call a servo mechanism that operates as a goal-striving device. So a torpedo or a guided missile is a goal-seeking device. It has a target, and then as it's moving towards its target, it's constantly autocorrecting and zigging and zagging until it hits the target. And whenever humans do creative work, and all work basically is creative work, they always will begin with a target answer or a goal in mind, which will be recognized when it's received. So if you're properly thinking about something, you usually have a hypothesis or a goal that you're working towards, which then allows your kind of intuitive faculties to start to unpack that goal and autocorrect you towards it. And the greater awareness and discernment that you have, the better you are at autocorrecting towards whatever target you're aiming for. The problem is that when we have big feelings of fear, uncertainty, doubt, what we're doing is we're actually setting that target that we're moving towards as finding more fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because we're going to get more. When we're chronically focused on anything, we're going to get more of that. So you get what you think about. Like if you're constantly dwelling on something, what you're doing is you're telling your brain, show me all the data points that back up the way that I feel right now, that prove my feeling right. And so as long as those feelings are lingering, or a lot of people shove them down and just kind of go into robot mode. And because of that, they're not able to properly process pain, and they miss a lot of data points. And what we want to do is make sure that our goal target is properly calibrated. And so a process for getting rid of all of those fear stories that are living in the background of our minds, because oftentimes if something in the present moment is fearful to us, it's usually linked to something in the past, like there's some past trauma that happened that maybe we bypassed, we didn't fully process. And so the present moment is almost always pointing to some trapped emotional energy in our nervous system that actually is ready for release. And so life, without getting too woo-woo, kind of is this video game that is constantly showcasing where we have trapped energy in our nervous system. And when we accept that whatever we're feeling about the present moment is appropriate, and if we will just process that, life doesn't have to keep poking us in those places that have that trapped energy, then this can be a really interesting way to up-level and to open up our decision space. So the best way to navigate through darkness is by bringing light to it, right? So if you're in a dark room, you can't see anything, all you have to do is light a match, and that tiny little flame will provide enough light to navigate the entire room. And so even though it may seem counterintuitive, one of the best ways for us to get over fear, uncertainty, and doubt is actually to address it and express it in as many ways as we can, basically until we can't think of any other ways to express it. So instead of shoving it down, we want to find a way to express it, not by projecting it onto others, not by blaming others, but we want to find our own personal process of working through this in a journal, in a text document like I'm about to do. I use 750words.com, which is a software program based on the Artist Way morning pages. I highly suggest getting a 750words.com account and doing this process on a regular basis. But what we're wanting to do is get all of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt out of our system, as we'll see when I go through the process. And what that does is it calibrates our success mechanism, it calibrates our target goal, and it calibrates our discernment back into a place where we can properly assess all probabilities and data. We can see all the opportunities that are available to us, and we can know when and how to engage with each of those opportunities. Because remember, discernment is just knowing what to do and when to do it. And this process of getting rid of all of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt stories that are running in the background of our nervous system allows us to be more capable of knowing what to do and when to do it. And that what and when, so as I mentioned before, knowing what to do and when to do it is going to be completely different based on your background, skill set, belief systems, etc. But you're going to be much more capable of discerning your next steps after doing this process. So uncertainty is just not knowing what to do next. And so anytime we're in that shut down place of I don't know what to do, or oftentimes it's a manic place of not knowing what to do. And so then you just end up doing a bunch of things and hoping that one of those things will help you to feel like you're not trapped anymore. And so this is a process that you can use anytime those big feelings come up, and it will help give you more confidence, clarity, and certainty on how to move forward. So step one is we want to, at the top of a text document, just write down what uncomfortable feelings am I feeling in my body right now. So when you see this chart and you see just this steady decline, and you bought up here, what are the feelings that come up in you? So in crypto, there's a reason that we call it FUD. Like fear, uncertainty, and doubt are the most common emotions that show up in people's nervous system when there's a market correction. So then we want to take each of these words and we want to ask two questions and list out everything that comes to mind. So we want to ask ourselves, and we just can do this in a text document, in a journal. You could do it with a friend and ask each other. There's coaches that will help you go through this type of process. But basically what we want to do is exhaust all the ideas and stories and thoughts that we have related to these different emotions. So we say, from where, how, or why could someone experience fear? And then we're going to list everything that comes to mind until we can't think of anything else. So from where, how, or why could someone experience fear? Well, I could experience fear when the market drops. And this is all stream of consciousness. Like you just want to get it out of your system. Your brain is going to go to the place that unlocks what it needs to unlock. So however you want to categorize that particular thought, you just drop into this list. So how else could somebody experience fear? Well, they lost families' money, lost their job. And you're not just listing things related to crypto. It's literally whatever comes into your mind, because fear from other domains of your life are going to show up in your crypto trading. They're going to show up in how you discern what information is valuable to you in the crypto market. There's there's way more information than you would ever be able to read or consume in the crypto markets, and so you need to have your discernment engine sharpened and pointed in a way where it's going to show you the thing that is relevant to you. And what that looks like is that gut feeling, that intuitive edge that says, ooh, this is for me. And of course, that's going to be different for everyone. But by getting rid of those the big uncomfortable feelings that we have, that engine of intuitive gut feeling, like knowing where what direction you need to go, recognizing what information for you is for you, getting all of that the uncomfortable feelings out of your system helps you dial that in. So from where, how, or why could someone experience fear? So we might experience fear. Someone tells us we're not worthy. We get disciplined at work. We read something on Twitter that makes it seem like we're going to lose all our money. We're running out of money. And so you just want to keep asking yourself this question: from where, how, or why could someone experience fear? And I do this pretty regularly, so I'm going to probably come to a blank pretty quickly. In the past, though, I've written maybe 50 pages of things that come to me. So maybe parents scold you. So these aren't always present moment things. Like, you'll find that your mind ends up going to the past and you're like, oh, I experienced fear when my parents used to yell at me. All of these things are linked up. And so that's why you want to list things until you literally cannot think of anything else. So where else could experience fear? Someone sends you a death threat. Someone tells you you did a bad job. Someone threatens your freedom. Someone shows you something bad that you can't do anything about. Where could someone experience fear? If someone is judging what you're saying, if someone is telling you that you're wrong, if someone gets others to believe you're a bad guy, you can see where my mind is at. What else? Where could we experience fear? So again, I do this almost on a daily basis, and so not a lot is coming to me. And so when you get to the place where there's not really a lot there, you can move to the next question. But it would be totally appropriate to have 50 pages worth of stuff the first time you do this. I mean, for the first year or so that I was doing this on a regular basis, I was filling legal pads with things that I was afraid of or uncertain about or doubtful about or angry about. Anger and resentment were the two that really I just felt I filled reams of legal pages. So what you would do is, if you wanted to do resentment, you would just change this to resentment. From where, how, or where could I experience resentment? And then you would write out all the things where somebody could experience resentment. So with fear, this isn't necessarily about where you experience fear, because a lot of times we're really good at creating strategies so that we don't have to experience fear. And so as a loophole, we want to write where anything that our mind says anybody might be afraid of. So even if it's not something that scares you, where could anyone experience fear? Your brain is going to serve up the things that are connected into that and kind of collapse a house of cards. And then once you can't think of any other way that somebody could experience fear in the moment, then you move on to the next question, which is kind of approaching it from a different angle. From where, how, or why could someone create fear? So they threaten you. This one, create just by changing the phrasing, you might be able to come up with more things, or you might your brain might say, oh, actually, I just remembered a bunch more things. So they threaten you. Where could somebody create pain? Or create fear. They're mean to you. They tell a lie about you. Where could somebody create fear? They stalk you. You can see what's going through my mind. This is a vulnerable process of really like analyzing the way that your brain is interpreting fear. Where could somebody create fear? They could manipulate the crypto markets. They could short your position. Where else could somebody create fear? Burn down again, like if some of these you're going to be like, why did that come to me? But whatever comes to you, you want to document it, because even though if it doesn't seem like it's connected to something in real life, there's this thread of thoughts that's going to open you up and kind of release all of these stories that you have around the concept of fear or whatever emotion you put in here. So from where, how, or why could someone create fear? Again, I do this every day, so there's not a lot more coming to me. And so that would be the time to end the process. And so you should feel lighter. Like if you were having some big feelings, after you can no longer, when you can literally think of no other way that somebody could experience fear and no other way that somebody could create fear, and you may be saying, why can't Jon think of anything else? I can think of a lot of things. We're all processed at a different level. And the more that we do this, the more that our brain just isn't tuned into that frequency of fear. And so there's probably not always going to be a lot there. But if this is the first time that you're doing a process like this, again, totally appropriate for you to fill an entire legal book, full of reasons that somebody might experience fear or create fear. But once you can no longer think of anything, and sometimes that like the manifestation that happens when you can literally not think of another way that somebody could create or experience fear, like you'll actually laugh out loud because it's so funny that your brain can't find that thought. And then once you get to that place where you're kind of feeling a little bit lighter, what you can do is follow this up with a technique that is a mindfulness technique or a visualization technique that the Abraham Hicks people, which is a much more woo-woo thing that we can get into if anybody wants to. But basically, the process is that a lot of times when we say an affirmation out loud, so when we say, I am a wealthy individual, if we don't feel like a wealthy individual, we actually can start to resent the affirmation or have resistance towards the affirmation, which works against the success mechanism aiming for the target, because then it starts to aim for the fact that we don't believe it rather than believing it. So one way to get past that and to get into the feeling space of the affirmation without resisting the affirmation is by completing the statement, wouldn't it be nice if? So wouldn't it be nice if I could see what I need to do and when I need to do it in all moments in time? And so there's no resistance to that, because yeah, it would be nice if I could see what I need to do and when I need to do it. And so what we're doing is we're going back to chapter 2 of Psycho-Cybernetics, and we're looking at the success mechanism, and we're tuning the success mechanism to show us the data points and to show us the decision space, the decisions that are available to us that will match the emotional state of these statements. So wouldn't it be nice if I found the perfect crypto trade and opportunity? Yeah, it would be nice if I found that. Wouldn't it be nice if people really resonated with this video and asked me to do more of them? and that opened up our community to be more successful together. Yeah, that would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice if this video really helped someone and changed their life for the better? So obviously, these statements are going to be subjective to you and to your goals and to what you want to experience with your life. But you're tuning your success mechanism in a way where you will start to see data points that reinforce these things. And the more that you can do this, the more that you will develop discernment that allows you to see the right data points and the right opportunities. And then once you have proper discernment, once that intuitive muscle is fine-tuned, then go out and read all of the news on the crypto markets, then read all of the Twitter threads, because you'll be able, your intuitive muscle will show you this perspective matches an opportunity that's available to you. And so it's not that there's a right perspective and a wrong perspective. Is this perspective pointing towards an opportunity that matches your particular talent stack or skill set or past history or belief system or current level of education? The opportunities that are available to somebody who's been a seasoned trader for the last 20 years versus somebody just getting started are way different. And so you need to develop discernment to know where your current opportunities exist. So I know this went a little bit down maybe what some people would consider to be somewhat of a woo-woo path. This has been wildly successful for me being able to build a practice as a consultant, to develop deeper relationships with friends, family, with my girlfriend, to really increase the amount of joy and happiness and satisfaction and confidence and clarity, knowing what to do in each moment and when to do it. That's such a powerful thing as you're deploying capital or creative energy into the markets. And the only currency that really matters is creativity, because creativity can always create opportunity. So even when the markets are down, if we can tune into our creative faculties, we can find opportunities that match our history, talent stack, and current belief systems, and will allow us to thrive and be successful not only in the marketplaces, but in life in general. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, add a comment so that I know that you want more videos like this. I know this is a different way of thinking about the crypto markets, but it's incredibly important that we understand how to process out the uncomfortable feelings, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt that comes up when there's a market correction, when an expectation that we have is broken, when we expect something to happen and then it goes differently. That's basically what trauma is. And if we don't process trauma properly, it becomes a blinder that prevents us from seeing the data, decision space, and opportunities that would otherwise be available to us. So try this process out. I'll put a link to this document, to these books in the description. Let me know if you run this, and if you have any success with it. If you have questions, ask those in the comments or find me on Twitter at Jon Ray. Of course, these are the projects that I'm involved in, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.